Hey everybody, welcome back to Bible Fun Duns. Today we read Revelation chapter 12, so let's try to get started.
Okay, so Revelation 12 really isn't as difficult as kind of some other chapters have been, but particularly because those of us who've been reading through the Bible anyway, we come to moments in the life of Jesus where Jesus will tell a story. He'll tell a story about a lost coin or a lost sheep or a lost son. He'll tell a story about farmers. He'll tell a story about a lot of different things. But those stories, although they sound wonderfully kind of simple, they all have deeper meaning. This is kind of like a parable in that kind of same vein, but it's kind of more sci-fi. So like there's a story, there's a woman, there's a baby, there's a dragon trying to eat the baby and kill the woman. I mean, there's a lot going on. But so here's what I want you to do. What if you took this and you hit rewind a little bit and you went from Revelation chapter 12, but you went all the way back to Luke chapter number 2. And you thought about the birth of Jesus through the nation of Israel, the attacks of the enemy on, and the victory of Jesus to survive. That's kind of what you see in the background of this. Jax, take us through some of the symbolism of this.
Okay, so through this, we see very direct symbolism where it can be kind of obvious, and that's what I like about this chapter probably the most. It's that we can kind of see what most of this means, unlike other chapters where it's a lot harder. But anyway, so when we start off, we're introduced to this woman with a crown of 12 stars, and she wears clothes like the sun, and she's standing on the moon, and she gives birth to this child who is Jesus. And so we can look at this in the literal context and be like, okay, Mary had a son named Jesus, and that's the Messiah. But also we can see that Jesus came from the tribe of Israel. Well, not the tribe of Israel. He came from Israel. 12 stars, 12 tribes. Not real sure about the sun and the moon, but
we'll get to that. I can tell you that.
Okay. Anyway, so we see this dragon trying to kill this woman, and make sure the baby doesn't get born, I guess. And he tries to attack the baby, who is also Jesus. And this dragon is obviously Satan, trying to prevent all of these things from happening. And so through this, we see God still taking care of the woman, Israel, and we see Satan being casted down, and so we just see God winning through this whole thing and Him preserving His people.
Okay, so let's think about this story a little bit from an Old Testament perspective. So, we know what this means, even if we don't think we know what this means. So the lady, when you and I originally started talking, you said, well, does this mean Mary and does this mean Jesus? That was kind of the obvious takeaway. The bigger takeaway is that this woman would be representative of the nation of Israel. Do you remember all the way back in the book of Joseph, the book of Genesis, the story of Joseph? Okay? Remember, Joseph had a couple of dreams when he was a kid. They were out and they were cutting wheat, and there were sheaves of wheat, and there were 11 of those sheaves, and they bowed down to him. Why? Because he was gonna be set up, and he was gonna be leader over the Egyptians, and that they were setting him up. Well, his second dream, he dreamed of 11 stars, or 12 stars, him being one of them, and then he dreamed of the sun and the moon, and he said that was his mom and his dad and his 11 brothers, and how they would come to him. So who was his dad? Joseph's dad was Jacob, whose name was turned to what? Israel. So this lady is a symbolic kind of mother figure of the nation of Israel. Why is it symbolized as a mother? Because through this mother, a child was born. A child that would rule all the world, a child of promise, a child that would be the very Son of God. And his name is
Jesus.
And then you got this dragon. Now, previously, Jesus has been described as a lamb who was slain and yet lives. and he's described as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Well, bigger than a lamb and bigger than a lion, you have a fiery red dragon. But John says this is the same as the old serpent of the Old Testament creation story. So this dragon is who?
Satan.
Is Satan. So even though he comes in the form of a giant fiery dragon and he's after a tiny little baby, who gets to win? The baby. Okay, so in Jesus' day when he was born, if you took the Old Testament all the way back, you would find the enemy constantly coming against the Israelites, whether it was the Egyptians, whether it was the Philistines, whether it was the surrounding nations, whether it was exile, or whether it was inner kind of temptation towards sin. He's always been hammering away at God's people. But has he been able to destroy? No. Jesus comes along and Jesus is about to be born, and what authoritative figure is coming after Jesus?
Herod.
Herod the Great, that's right. And he kills all of the male babies born in Bethlehem. But did Jesus die? No. So not only can the enemy may growl and show his teeth, but he cannot defeat God's people or his purpose, and he sure can't defeat God's Son. The other side to this is when it says, then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of the brethren, the accuser means Satan. Okay? The accuser of our brethren who accused them before God day and night has been cast down. He's been defeated. And they overcame him. Who is they? Believers. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Listen, because they did not love their lives to death. He would try to kill them, and he would kill many believers. But they wouldn't love this life more than they love God, so they would willingly die. Jesus talked about this like martyrdom in the New Testament. He says it's almost like a seed that falls to the ground, and when the seed breaks, life springs up. Okay? But I like this because it says that they're overcoming the devil by the blood of the Lamb and by the power of their testimony. So how do we work against the agenda of the devil? Here, number one, we got to be saved. We are saved by being washed in the blood of the
Lamb.
That's right. The next thing is it says they overcame by the power of their testimonies. Well, when we share our testimonies, what is that? What are we telling?
Our story.
Our story about how Jesus saved us. And when we share that to lost people, at the end of that, we invite them to do what?
Do the same.
To do the same. We invite them. So how do we fight against the agenda of the enemy of the world? We know Jesus and we make him known. And we overcome. And listen, and this talks about how angry he gets. Why? Because he knows his time is short. How does he know his time is short? Because the scripture says so. He knows he's gonna thrash around and he's gonna fight, but he's a defeated enemy. And that's what this story is. That no matter what he's done and no matter how powerful he's tried to look, he is always at every stage a defeated enemy. And that's the devil, a defeated enemy. We'll see you tomorrow in Revelation chapter number 13. Bye.